Well, jeepers! You're listening to Smash or Pass.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another interview on the JayBee and Milly channel. I am JayBee, and of course, with me is Milly.
Hi.
Now, we've got a very special show today, diving back into the realm of Courage the Cowardly Dog. Of course, we've done some really cool interviews within that realm with Marty Grabstein, Paul Scheffler, then a reunion between the two, and going deeper into the whole world of Courage. We have Jeff Brennan here for an interview.
Hello, how you doing?
Well, it's absolutely fantastic to have you here. Of course, known for a lot of things, Courage the Cowardly Dog being one of them. So we're looking forward to getting into a lot of aspects of your career. And so, of course, having done so many things such as digital art, traditional art, and comic books, like what's really started you on that career path?
Well, it's such funny. I just happened to be wearing this Spider-Man shirt. My mom got me this comic book when I was a kid. It's one of the Treasury editions. Those are like the really big, like oversized comics. And I was looking in those and I saw they had names of the people who had worked on them. And I thought, gee, people actually get paid to draw this kind of stuff for a living. I'm like, that's for me. I want to do that. So that was my first, I was probably about 5 years old when I got that comic book, I'd say.
Oh, wow, amazing. And so I'm assuming from that Spider-Man certainly was a big influence in terms of the comic books you enjoyed, but do you ever remember any in particular artists standing out to you or anything like that that you think influenced your career?
Well, definitely, I was a very big, once I started getting into X-Men, I was a very big John Byrne fan. He's like my all-time favorite. I actually got to meet him. I went to his Halloween party. I've seen him at conventions and stuff, and I got to tell him once that he was like really like the reason I got into comics, and it's funny, he just kind of went, "Oh, it's my fault." You know, so-
Oh, that's absolutely fantastic. I love that aspect of meeting heroes and how all things collide in that way. And I think Comic-Con's been an absolutely fantastic thing to that. And the way that people are a lot more open now to connect to fans
Hmm.
and stuff. And so in terms of the fans that could be inspired by such works, do you have any advice for people watching this that are maybe similarly looking to get into, say, comic books or art of any kind?
Um, well, it's funny because like I have had a chance to meet and become friends with a lot of people who I was like fans of, a fan of their work, and it's not always great to meet your heroes. Most of the time it's good, but there's a couple that have not been as good. So just be ready for that, I guess. But the ones you meet that are really good, Walt Simonson was a really great guy. I've met him a bunch of times. George Perez, really great guy. Like the ones that are really nice people, like they're always willing to like help you out and give advice on how to break in and stuff like that. So yeah, they're like there's a couple out of there just fantastic people, So it's good to meet. So, and I had a good experience with John Byrne too, meeting him as well. I'm also good friends with one of his assistants, Keith Williams, that was he started out working with John Byrne. That's how he kind of got his start in the career, his comic book career.
Mm. That's fantastic, the way that that can transcend and everything. And I guess when you talk about things transcending from mediums, be that from the page to the screen and anything like that, I think one of the coolest instances of that happening is one of your characters, the Cybergirl Lita, appearing
Mm,
as quite a prominent bit of iconography in the Big Bang Theory. Like, what was that
yeah.
whole experience like, and how did that come about?
Well, that's a really funny story. My mom was actually just a big fan of The Big Bang Theory, so she doesn't really use the computer a lot. I don't know how she got the address, but she actually looked on the screen. I think she paused the screen to get the name of the set designer, and then she wrote her a letter and sent my artwork to the show and said my son should be doing artwork for your show. And then I started doing that. I did that for like the last 4 seasons when the show was on. And when season 12 was on, they said that I could go ahead and put the logo on there. And that's actually been pretty good for my sales. Actually, if you don't mind, I have a copy here. I could pull that out right here. This
Oh
is
yeah, of
the
course.
comic
Oh,
Cybergirl
all
Lita.
right.
If you can see, this is the collected edition. This has the first 6 issues in it. This is on Amazon too, if I can get a little plug in there.
That's
I'll
absolutely
be definitely
amazing.
looking for that in the UK as well. That's gonna be amazing. Thank you.
I mean,
Oh, no problem.
it is certainly fair to say that you've worked on some amazing things, and of course, one of the ones we are really keen to talk about is Courage the Cowardly Dog, which
Of
you're
course.
credited as a designer right from the start. So, do you remember how your work on that came about?
Another funny story. My my roommate's girlfriend was working on the show, and she goes, "Oh, is Jeff looking for work right now?" And he was like, "Yeah." So that's how I ended up working on The Chicken from Outer Space, which was the short film, which wasn't even intended to be a pilot. It was just a short film, which was actually nominated for an Oscar. We actually lost to Wallace and Gromit, which I don't mind losing to them because they're pretty good too. You know? And then so that was done in New York, and then after that I did Beavis and Butthead in New York, and then I moved out to LA, and I did a bunch of shows out there, and I was out in LA for about 3 years, and then Toy Story came out, and everybody said there's going to be no more 2D artists, everybody's 3D, so the work had really dried up, so I moved back to New York, and I contacted all the people who I'd worked with previously at the different animation studios, including Stretch Films. And timing wise, I got there just as the series was picking up. So I'm one of the few people, I think it might only be me and John Dilworth, I'm not sure, that worked on the pilot and the series. There might be one or two more in there. I don't really know for sure, but I know that a lot of people, even Marty wasn't involved with the pilot. Actually, I was talking to him about that recently. He goes, "You worked on the pilot? I didn't even work on the pilot." So.
Oh,
But yeah,
wow.
that was just lucky. Well, first it was lucky that I got onto the pilot, and then also that when I moved back to New York again, it became a series like at just the right time. So just lucky twice.
It is perfect how that all lined up. And in terms of when you were working on the show, do you remember if there was any particular designs that you enjoyed doing the most, or any designs that were particularly memorable to you?
Well, it's funny because I designed some of the characters and stuff like some of the villains, and I don't, to be honest, I don't remember a lot of them. I know I'm credited with like quite a few of the iconic ones. Like I did work on Ramsey's episode, but I didn't design that character. And the Cats episode, I worked on that, but I don't believe I designed Cats. But I did design the Goose God. He was the one that was in love with Eustace's truck, because I found a sketch recently, and it's like my early design from that, and it's interesting to see. I could find that, but I have it in a book. But anyway, but it's interesting to see like how different he looks from my original design to how he looked on the show. He looked a little bit more. I think I drew the bill a little bit more like a Daffy Duck kind of bill. Because once I did the initial design, it goes through the design team, and they tweak him a little bit to make him fit more within Courage's world. But so honestly, he's the only one I honestly remember. But I worked on the first season, I think half of the second season. I was just watching it recently though, and I saw one of my backgrounds in the third season, but I know I'd left by then. So it might have been they were using like a background that I'd worked on previously, because it was the Snowman episode, and he made a return appearance, and that's probably why they had the same backgrounds left over, so they probably used him again.
That's an interesting curiosity that I actually listened to, and do forgive me if I'm misquoting this. I think it was the Incredicon interview you did a couple of years ago, but is
Mhm.
it true that you believed initially that Courage was going to be brown as opposed to pink?
I thought so. Yeah, that's what
Ah,
I thought. There was no reason for that. I just, because when we were working on it, there was no color, so I thought it was going to be like Scooby Doo, and the first time I saw him pink, I was like, boy, that's weird. He looks like a pig, but it's kind of like one of those things, like you can't imagine the Simpsons being any other color than yellow at this point too, so I can't imagine Courage would ever be anything but pink now. Well, it's funny because when he goes outside, he becomes purple though.
you see, because obviously, we love Scooby Doo here as well. The one thing I was
Mhm.
thinking of when I heard that was, I wonder if like the studio or someone out there was like, we don't really want two talking brown dogs out there in the animation marketplace, so maybe it was seen as a bit too similar. Although you can't really mix Courage up with Scooby, can you? But I
Right.
was just wondering if that
It's
was part of it.
it's possible. I wasn't involved with the picking the colors. I was just, and I really didn't really have any real input on the design of the main characters. John had already designed those. But they did kind of, I don't believe we even had model sheets when we worked on the pilot. So we were kind of making it up as we went along a little bit. Like he had all the designs in place, but I don't remember model sheets. So they were just kind of following what John was doing. And if you look in some of the pilot, like in some scenes, he looks very different. Then there's other scenes where he kind of starts to look like the Courage we know now.
Yeah, very much the groundworks of the Courage show that we did get and that we absolutely love, and something that a lot of people do say about it to the point where I think it's come a bit cliche, but it does ring so true, especially with what's on the air now versus Courage. But
Mm,
for many people, it was their first introduction to horror or just
yeah.
anything remotely scary. Like, as you say, maybe some of your designs were tweaked a little bit, but how much was that horror aspect at the forefront of the design process?
Um, I mean, that was probably more due to the writing. I think intended to be a horror show, so we designed accordingly. An interesting point is the last show that I did when I was in LA was Dragon Tales, and I had some involvement with the designs of that too. But it's so funny because two different shows, like Dragon Tales and Courage, you couldn't find, had this extreme like cutesy like kiddie show, and then this like monsters, of the week kind of thing. And so it just depends on what your designer gives you and what kind of show it is, I guess, is how you kind of adjust your designs.
That's understandable. And just over like the episodes overall, do you have any particular favorite episodes of Courage the Cowardly Dog?
I always say, whenever I get that question, I always say Chicken from Outer Space, the pilot, because I worked directly with John on that one, and that was really cool. Like, it was a very small group. It was a kind of almost a family thing. I almost think it might have been like, I don't know if he even had the studio then. I feel like it might have even been in his apartment. I think it was brand new. Like, it wasn't really, I mean, it might have been a studio, but it was much smaller than when we worked on the series. And when I worked on the series, like, I didn't really get to see John as much, because the show had gotten bigger, and he was kind of like off dealing with the network, and we had like design crews split up with working under different people, and they all reported to him. But I always thought he was a lot of fun to work with, though. I last time I saw him was at the reunion in like 2010, I think, and still as fun as ever.
That's amazing. I mean, there certainly is something really fun about the show, and certainly just something that makes it's really stood the test of time. People to this day still really enjoy watching the show. Is there anything in particular, be that something about the concept or just how well everyone got on behind the scenes, that you think really solidified that it'd still have this presence so many years later?
Um, I mean, I think it has a lot to do with like John's sensibility, like his characters and stuff like that. Like it's really his baby. I was just somebody who helped him deliver it really, and I've seen a lot of his other work and stuff, and he's got that really interesting style that's not really mainstream, and that kind of was on Courage is probably as mainstream as it got. Like it was interesting to kind of take that his style of his and make it mainstream, and I thought that's I think what really made it a great show is just kind of his weird ideas that he had and stuff like that.
Oh, it certainly is a great show. And what was working on it actually like in terms of the process? Was it that, I appreciate, normally there's going to be multiple stages. Did you all get to interact and be in sort of like a studio together, with the voice actors? For example, I know you met Marty at a Comic-Con. Were you ever kind of in working at the same time, or was it many different stages to the process?
It's different people working in different groups. Like I never met Marty until the reunion, actually. I never normally, I've worked on a bunch of shows. I've met Matt Groening, I've met Mike Judge, but most of the shows I work on, I never usually meet like any of the voice actors or those kind of people. Like, I think Courage is the only one I really did. Because I met Thea too at the reunion. That was like about a year before she passed away. And I bet if I hadn't worked on the pilot, I might not have even really had a chance to talk to John that much too. So it's, a lot of these shows, it's kind of, for example, like Dragon Tales, I just recently met one of the people who was one of the creators of the show, and I didn't even know he was an actor on Land of the Lost, and he was at a table near mine, and he had some plush from Dragon Tales. And I was like, "Oh, why do you have that?" And he goes, "Oh, because I'm one of the creators of the show." And I'm like, I had no idea. So I showed him my sign. I go, "Look, I worked on it too." He's like, "Oh, you're kidding!" Like you don't usually get to meet people like that, which is that was one thing that was different about Courage. Another thing that was different was I got to do a lot of different things. Like I did design, I did animation, I also did some storyboards, storyboard revisions. I think I was only credited as a designer, but they let you do a little bit of everything, which I thought was pretty cool, which doesn't usually happen on most of the shows I've done.
You know, that's one of my favorite things about Comic Cons is the amount of different things that people have worked on and how many, that fandoms that brings out. Like I have vivid memories of meeting Matthew Lillard with a little
Oh,
Scooby Doo Funko Pop, while everyone else there had like fake knives from Scream, like
oh
blooded
yeah.
up masks, and it was a terrifying
I mean, the Comic
experience.
Con was called for the love of horror, so that was probably an indication that everyone
Uh,
else was going to be rocking up with Scream masks, and we just had a
right.
Scooby Doo Funko Pop. So,
It was a bit crazy, but of course, you've been to quite a lot of Comic Cons now. Do you remember which
Right.
one your first one was?
Hmm. Probably, let's see, either San Diego. I think it was New York, actually. I went with a friend of mine, actually, a guy named Denny Fink. He's just recently finished up work on Star Trek Lower Decks. That's one of the shows he's done. He's worked on Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Venture Brothers. He was actually the best man at my wedding. Like, so I've known him a long time. And he used to let me, he would have a big table at Comic-Con and I wasn't able to get a table. So he would give me like a small section of his table and I would kind of sit next to him and I kind of learned how to kind of interact with the fans and that kind of thing from watching how he did it. And so that was a really good experience because I'm not really, I never used to really be that good at like public speaking. I also lived in China for a year and that kind of helped me learn too because I had to talk to people about my cartoon experience or the movies I worked on. I worked on the movie The Expendables. I did special effects on that. And so it helps because I'd be sitting in front of like a large auditorium, sometimes like 1,000 people, and I would talk and then I would have to wait so the translator could say what I said. But I found that actually really helped me kind of get over my fear of public speaking because it gave me a minute to collect my thoughts and then kind of think about what I was going to say next. And then they were done. And then I would say the next thing. So I mean, so that really helps. That I did that after Comic Con. So the ones I did in China, I was there for about a year and I did a lot of like touring, talking about different projects I worked on and stuff there.
That's interesting as well. Like, so when you go to these Comic Cons, is it more the case that you go there as the industry guest, for lack of a better word, or do you ever like kind of go to the other stalls and kind of meet other people in the capacity of a fan at all?
A little bit of both. I mean, yeah. I don't know if you've seen the drawing I did of Thor, the Courage as Thor. Did you ever see that one I did?
I think, yeah, I saw that up on Facebook. Facebook, I
Yeah,
believe.
I gave one of those to Walt Simonson. Like I mentioned previously, he's like a really nice guy, and he thought it was hilarious. He really thought it was funny. Oh, and I did the one with Courage and Frankenfurter from Rocky Horror Picture Show. I gave one of those to Barry Bostwick. He was so excited to get it. I gave one to Susan Sarandon as well, and I met Jodie Benson, the voice of Little Mermaid, recently, and I have one with Courage and Little Mermaid and the Puddle Queen. And I gave her one of those. She liked it so much she put it on her Instagram. Oh, this is an interesting one. Just recently, I got to meet Tom Kenny because my roommate in college, well, he's the voice of SpongeBob, by the way, for those who don't know. But my roommate in college is actually now the voice of Plankton. So on SpongeBob. So it's kind of cool because we had that connection. Like he told me, he goes, "Oh, if you go to a show and you see Tom, you got to go say hi, tell him you know me and everything like that." So I did a drawing just recently of Courage with SpongeBob, and I think that's kind of cool because, like, in real life we knew each other, and now our fictional characters got to meet each other. So it's kind of when you talk about like, do I go around and talk to other people? Sometimes I do that. Sometimes like some of the celebrities will come to my table because they're fans of the show, or like some of the different artists, are fans of the show too. Let me know if I'm rambling too much because I have a lot to say.
Oh no, like please, like we're here to hear all of it. Like
Okay.
genuinely.
My first job in comics was actually an issue of Superman. I did background inking with Brett Breeding. I don't know. Are you familiar with him?
Matt
He's a
Green?
Brett. No, Brett Breeding. He was
Ah,
a inker. But anyway, he worked on the Death of Superman, a lot of big comic books like that, and he gave me my start in comics, and I got to see him recently at a show, and he goes, "Oh, we watched Courage the Cowardly Dog," and I go, "Well, thanks to you, that opened some doors for me in animation. Give me that first job, and I kind of got my foot in the door. So it kind of led to working in backgrounds in animation, and more and more jobs. So it was kind of cool to reconnect with him. So yeah, it all comes around.
yeah, it's a small world in many ways, and I know you've brought some, stuff to show us, and I think that this may be a good time, because my next question is always quite a good one, and that's, what are some of your favorite memories from attending Comic Cons? Like any Comic Con you've been to, some of your favorite highlight memories?
well, like when Danny Trejo came to my table, that was kind of cool. Well, not just meeting the celebrities too, but also like a lot of times, like just how like the fans, how they react. You know, like I met someone who was autistic and they said the show kind of helps them get through it, and you know, other fans had a lot of like, you know, great stories like that. Oh, but you mentioned you want to see, I do a lot of these. I don't know if you can see. I'll hold one up here. I don't know if you're
Oh,
getting a
that's
glare on
lovely.
that. Now this is actually from the 4th season, so I didn't work on this episode, but I just thought it was pretty cool though. So I get a lot of requests for people for me to draw on the pops, so I do a lot of these. By the way, if anybody wants to contact me, I do these through the mail to. Oh, and I would like to mention my Instagram is Jeff Wildstar if anybody would like to follow me. I also do these sketches. I have a pile of these ready for the next show. You know, a lot of like original sketches and stuff that I do. Oh, let me show you this one. There's a oh yeah, I was talking about this one. This is the black and white version, but I have the color. I don't know if you can see that.
Oh, that's
Courage and
lovely.
SpongeBob.
Oh, I love how like Courage has like the sandy cheeks, little
Yeah.
like astronaut type diving gear on. Oh, that's wonderful.
And then let's see, where's the I have another one. Oh yeah, this is like another. I've got a few. There's one specific one I'm looking for that I see it. It's right under there. And then there's that one. And this is the one that everybody always asks me about is this episode here. Everybody
Oh
remembers this
yeah,
one.
the Return the Slav.
Yeah. Do you know who did the voice of that?
I know that it's one of the only ones that wasn't Paul Scheffler. The name that it was escapes me though.
It was John Dilworth did the
Oh
voice of that.
really?
Yeah, he did it himself.
Hmm.
Yep. Which is kind of interesting. I just learned that recently myself, actually.
Yeah, there's a lot of curiosities around John Dilworth, the show. Like, I think it was Marty mentioned that Freaky Fred's smile is based on John
Mm.
Dilworth's smile. That's
Oh, I
really
didn't know
cool.
that. That's funny.
They're absolutely amazing though. It's so exciting to see them, and certainly things that would be incredible to have as part of the collection. But in terms of what people bring to you to have signed, is there any particular items that stand out to you as different or perhaps even a little bit strange?
Well, this is a cute one. A fan sent me this one. I've signed a few of these. This is great. I love this. You know, like people always, I usually have this at my table and people say, "Oh, how much is that?" And I'm like, no. If somebody would sent me that, can't sell that one. But I did actually find an extra one recently, so I did sell that one. So I signed one of those. As far as odd thing, well, people have had me sign money. People have had me. One person asked for his wife was pregnant or girlfriend, I'm not sure which. So he wanted me to draw Courage with like a baby in his stomach, like with somebody kicking. I'm like, well, Courage is a boy, but you know, it was kind of a weird request. But I think that's probably the weirdest one. I don't think they're, and then that's not even that bad. I have a lot of like over on my shelf here, I've got a lot of items that fans have given me. I have like some tumblers. Looks like I have some homemade plush. Oh, I'll show you. This is real funny one I got here too.
Oh yeah.
This is a I'll take this hat off. Just somebody actually made me a Courage hat.
Oh wow,
You can see it's kind of funny.
that's
There we can see.
amazing.
It's kind of
That
cute.
is so cute. That's so good.
But yeah, and she
Oh,
also made a plush. I have some stuff. It's kind of off in the. Oh, let me grab these real
oh
quick.
yeah. That's
This is interesting. You're
amazing. Thank you.
gonna like these. Let's see. We're just talking about the Return the Slab. I got one of these. It's pretty cool too. So yeah,
Oh
3D
my
printed
God.
character.
Oh my gosh, I was thinking that was like official merch then, but
Me
that looked so
too.
No,
good. Like,
yeah, and this one too. I have. I should have thought ahead and had all this stuff ready, but I have this
Oh
one.
my goodness, that's amazing.
Yeah, right. It's cool. These I actually just found on eBay. These were it was pretty cheap. They were $20 each. I was like, oh, I gotta have these. You know, pretty cool.
oh, I'm obsessed. I'm gonna go down such a bad rabbit hole after this of like screenshotting parts of the interview, Google lensing stuff. Like, I need to find this. Like, that's crazy.
They really are amazing. I mean, it certainly seems like you found so many items, but also just, you know, incredible stories as well from Comic-Cons. And in terms of where you've been and the locations that they've taken you to, is there a particular Comic-Con that you've, you know, enjoyed the most, or a certain location for Comic-Con that, you know, has taken you to a different place that you've really enjoyed?
Well, Florida, the one MegaCon was like a really good one. That was like I always bring about 100 pops with me, and I sold almost all of them at MegaCon. I was like shocked. Like I was like, because I always bring 100 just in case, you know, but I never expect to sell them all. I usually sell 30 or 40, maybe, let's say. But this one I sold, like, I think I only had like 5 or 6 left. I was like, holy cow. I couldn't believe the reaction that people had there. You know, it was really cool. Oh, and we want to talk about fun locations. The mall that I grew up in, I got to do a signing there, which was kind of cool. I didn't grow up in the mall, I mean, near my house, you know, and they invited me there to do a signing, which was pretty cool to kind of come back home. Because when I was a kid, I would go there and I would used to see the actor who played Gordon on Sesame Street, you know, when I was a little kid, and I was really, you know, amazed, like, oh, Gordon's here, you know, and then somebody's coming there to see me. You know, it's like kind of a weird, you know, it's kind of all came around full circle, you know.
Yeah, that's almost like a hometown hero coming back and like
Yeah,
really taking over. That's fantastic. And this may be a bit of like a probing question, more so
Mhm.
like how do we get some of, you know, this stuff in the UK and stuff like that? But like, is there a location maybe outside of the States, outside of Canada that you'd like to visit at all if a Comic-Con, say in Australia, invited you there?
Oh, I would go, you name it. I'm actually I don't know if I'm allowed to talk about it yet, but I might be, I'll be vague about, but I might be signing up with somebody who might help me get some shows that are going to be more outside the US, because I would love to go to the UK. I went for my honeymoon and had a great time there. I would, you know, I haven't really done any shows outside of the US. I mean, I was at the Hong Kong Comic Con, but that's just because I was living in China already, and I didn't have a table there. But I would absolutely, if you know any promoters that you know would be interested in having me there, by all means, you know, give them my contact info. I would love to do it.
Oh, that's fantastic. I think I know a couple, one in the UK, one in Australia. So yeah, that'd be amazing, especially like to get you over here and see that. And I suppose just out of curiosity, when you
Hmm.
are like you know, writing on Funko Pops, doing art on them, I'm always so curious to know how this did because I think it was kind of almost shadow released here in the UK. But when fans do bring you Funko Pops or when you sell Funko Pops, which
Hmm.
one do you find to be the most successful, the standard Courage Funko or the one that they brought out that was flocked?
Hmm. It's kind of the same, actually. Yeah, there was a time when I couldn't find the standard one, so I was ordering flocked exclusively just because they're the only ones I could get a hold of. And now that I have both of them, kind of doesn't matter. I find that I don't have any examples here, but the ones that are two-sided, like where I draw like on both sides, like on the front and the side, you know, like I usually have like I'll have the Ooga Booga mask on one side and Courage on the other side, or Cats on one side and Courage on the, or King Ramses. I do a Freaky Fred one too. Those I find to be the best sellers though, because it's two-sided. Now, not everybody wants to have their pop covered up, so that's why I don't do them all like that. Because when I do that, I draw like on the front and the side, and you know, then you kind of can't really see them so much, you know. So some people they don't care, they, you know, but that's why I give them an option, you know.
Oh yeah, that is understandable, and you know the mashups that you've shown have been amazing. I almost wish that like we could find a way to commission some of these as like feature crossovers. I think that would be amazing. But you know,
All
of
right.
course, Courage did return quite recently. Well, I say recently, it's going back a few years now, but for that Scooby Doo crossover, did this
Right.
spark any requests on your end for Scooby Doo and Courage the Cowardly Dog artwork at all, or did it kind of
I
go under
do
the
have a
radar a bit?
I do have a print of Courage and Scooby that I did that I sell at the shows actually. And it's funny because people always say, "Oh, did you work on Scooby Doo?" Well, I did work on a Scooby Doo toy line, but I didn't work on any of the shows because I was in the I had about maybe 10 to 15 years in the animation field, and then after that I was in the toy industry for about 10 years. So I've done a lot of toy work, and then after that I probably did about another 10 years in like advertising. You know, I worked for clients like Victoria's Secret, Grand Marnier Liquor, those kind of, just doing like 3D renders of like designs, like alcohol designs or like display setups, that kind of thing, book covers, that kind of stuff, which wasn't as creatively fulfilling, but it was still interesting. And that actually led to me working on my own comic, The Cybergirl Lita, because I was doing that kind of thing. So I had the computer skills. And that was also when I was doing special effects around that same time too. So I forgot what the question was. I went off on a tangent.
Oh
though.
no, just about like how the Scooby Doo and Courage crossover may have
Oh, right,
affected
'cause I
fan
brought up
requests
Scooby-Doo.
or anything like
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
That is interesting. What do you record? Do you remember what toys of Scooby Doo you worked on? Like what line that
Yeah,
was, what company?
I probably still I it would take a bit of a search to find them, but they were like it was like a little statues that you could paint, like kids could paint. It was a one was Scooby. He was like looking at a sandwich. It was like a sandwich, and he was kind of like looking at it, like getting ready to eat it. And then there was another one with Scooby and Shaggy that were standing next to each other. And there was another one that was the van with all the characters in the van, but they were just little, about that big. And you were given like a blank. It was like just white color, and I did the drawings for that, and then the kids would get paints and they would paint it.
That is awesome. I'm really excited about that. Like, obviously, you said it would take a bit of finding, but depending on when this interview is scheduled to go out, if you ever did come across them just pseudo naturally, if you're able to take a photo of them, I'd love to be able to like pop them up in the interview as we're speaking about them. That's amazing.
I could look for, I don't know where they I might be able to find them online easier than finding the actual ones. It's
Oh, that's
funny.
no
I also, this is starting to come back. I don't know if, I'm always surprised that people have heard of it, but have you ever heard of something called SWAT Cats?
I think we spoke to Tom Ruger who mentioned it quite briefly,
Okay.
but I'm not sure if I'm getting my wires crossed.
Okay, because that was another one that I did like some work on the toy line, and I actually had the prototypes of the toys from that, and I never thought anything of it. I put them on eBay years ago, probably got $100 for them, but now I see online that the actual toys themselves are going for like, I don't know, $2,000 each. I'm like, and I had the prototypes, I had the actual like the models of them. I'm just like, geez, I wish I'd kept those.
Oh, yeah, the toy market is a crazy one. Always being in the UK, we find that we spend more money on actual postage and delivery than the actual item itself. So it's
That's
always
true.
tricky. Always tricky.
I have sent to England. That's true. I find sometimes it is expensive to send stuff over there for sure.
Oh, but I guess to get in the process of wrapping things up now, like, are you working
Mhm.
on any, current or like new projects that you can speak about at all?
Mostly the comic book that I showed before, the Cybergirl Lita, the one that was on Big Bang Theory. I'm on issue number 10. I'm about halfway through that. Mostly that's all I do now is I just do the comic conventions. Thing is, I've been getting a lot of bookings, so it's been about, I don't know, 6 or 7 months since issue 9 came out. So I got a little bit behind, but because it's my own project, I can go as fast or slow as I want. And there's
Yeah.
also a lot of issues out already, so a lot of people are just discovering it. So
Perfect. And so in regards to, I know you'd mentioned the Instagram before, where
Mhm.
are the best places for people to keep up with the work that you're doing or upcoming Comic-Con appearances, all that sort of thing?
Mostly I would say my Instagram, which is Jeff Wildstar. And if you look at, if you put the name Jeff Wildstar on Instagram, it'll come up, and then you'll see a picture of me, it'll say Jeff Brennan. Just there was other Jeff Brennan, so that's why I put Jeff Wildstar. It's from an anime. I don't know if you're familiar with the show Star Blazers, but that's where I got that from. But yeah, they can find me on Instagram at Jeff Wildstar. And that's usually the best place. Like I post my convention schedule on there. I post a lot of artwork on there. I am on Facebook, but I'm at the 5,000 friends limit. But I do have an Art of Jeff Brennan page on Facebook that people could follow me if they wanted to do that. So,
Oh, that's wonderful. We'll definitely be sure to leave all those in the description down below. But that does
okay.
conclude all of the questions that we had for you today. Just thank you so much for coming on and joining. It's been a really great time speaking with you.
Oh, no problem. Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Well, thank you so much. And of course, thank you so much to everybody for watching. This has been another interview on the JayBee and Milly channel. Once again, please check out all of the information in the description as well. And if you do want to see more, then please like, comment, and subscribe, and we'll see you next time.